So you are having a great session of debriefing our tool Leadership Circle Profile or Leadership Circle Manager Edition. And then you have a session and you have a conversation around what is the plan here. Of course, people digest and they are like, Carolina, 18 competencies, 11 reactive tendencies. Where do I start? What I am going to do with this? What is the important thing here? And something that I want to share with you, let me see, is a journey. Let me bring a journey, an idea of how this works. So, because I was going to explain about the graphic makes a huge difference for you. So here you have a leadership circle profile. Imagine that you start maybe in the company you are working, or maybe this is the first time you know about this leadership development assessment, but you have an assessment that is leadership circle profile, that it always comes with a great and powerful conversation. Actually, we have here practitioners, and practitioners knows that we invest a lot of time in teaching, training you on doing this really important conversation that is not a coaching session. This is different from a coaching session. It has like an agenda, and the agenda is for the client to understand these results and to start a digestion process that is going to continue for some weeks until we have a next session. And this session, we call it the leadership development plan session. If you're a practitioner, in our interpretation manual, we have an example of this. If you're a practitioner, we have in our materials a leadership development plan. But at the end is what I always did after any assessment working with my clients, that is like, okay, let's have a conversation around development. What do you want to work in? What are you listening? Let's imagine that we gather a good amount of people of your life. I love these exercises from Robert Keegan. Robert Keegan is an expert on the stages of development and the author of Immunity to Change, and a beautiful process that I was certified with him. He said, let's imagine we invite a group of people of your life, like a 360. We do an intervention. I think we all know what is an intervention, right? So I invite a group of people of your life, and we ask these people, let me play with you, Sarah. Let's imagine that we're doing this. And I ask these people, if Sarah has to change just one thing that is going to make a difference, that is going to take her to the next level, what do you think Sarah should be working on? And we're going to listen different responses, maybe from your family, some things, maybe from your friends, from school and other things, maybe from your colleagues at work, another thing. But I also ask the leader, hey, Sarah, but if you have to change just one thing that is going to unleash your potential, that is going to multiply your impact, what do you think you should be working on? You don't have to answer this here. I'm not going to expose you this way. Phew. But let's imagine that you have to choose just one thing. But this thing is going to make a difference. Like when I play a little bit with my clients on this, they always know what is the one big thing. Because at the end, we always know. We know that if we work on that, it's going to make a difference. So one big thing is something that we like discover in the leadership development plan session. And we also talk about two things that if you read our books, you know what I am talking about. If you spend and invest time on developing one creative competency, one competency that is going to create a long-lasting impact on your teams, on the people you work with, on yourself. If you begin to practice one of these competencies and you stop doing one of the reactive behaviors, then you are going to move the whole result of your leadership circle profile. So what we measure in Pulse is these three things I'm playing here today. One big thing goal, one start behavior, one stop behavior, and that is enough. When people feel overwhelmed with these results, you can have a conversation. Hey, if we just stop looking all of these dimensions, all of this feedback, if we listen all the commentaries you receive in your leadership circle profile, and we put this on a filter, and at the end, the essence is something that you need to change. And it's a one big thing behavior, a one big thing goal, one start behavior, one stop behavior is enough. Is enough to have a 1 year coaching process. Of course, we're going to have a conversations in between all of these months coaching sessions, and maybe we can gather new another competencies, another reactive tendencies. But which is super important is that what Pulse measures is that this session of leadership development plan is to do that. And we can do it with a team. We can work with a team. I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but let's talk about individuals. So we do this, but let's imagine that we are doing this with 10 people inside of an organization, a leadership team of an organization. We can have a session when we gather all of this leadership team and we all share what are we going to invest the time. We give each other feedback. And imagine how we are affecting, or in a good way, the culture of this team and the culture of the organization, because, of course, leaders shape culture, right? So when we talk about having this session, we are beginning to create change because people is sharing, we are all in the same page. We're all wanting to change something. And then we begin to do our different polls, surveys, and at the end we can have a team pulse in both of them. Like I can aggregate this by the end. I'm going to share with you the case with one of my clients. We play a lot with this, but we can also imagine that we are having a group session, a team session, and people comes from doing the leadership circle profile, but we're going to have a conversation around them as a team. We can create a one big thing goal. We can create a start behavior of the team and a stop behavior. And we can also measure that in one survey that the whole team is going to respond the 3 times. And we can see at the end how was the performance of this team on that goal.